Good afternoon. I think we're live here on Facebook. Um, I'm Representative Wendy Horman from District 30 in Idaho Falls. And this is Senator Kevin Cook and Representative Gary Marshall. We represent the areas surrounding the city of Idaho Falls primarily. We're trying to do these Facebook Live things as a way to keep in touch with folks back home better since there's not a whole lot of traffic in the capital still. And we've had some limited COVID this session, but we had a couple more this week over in the Senate.
We did, and they're southeastern Idaho. We had Senator Van Bertenshaw from up in Raritan area up there in Madison County. And then we had Senator Bear from Blackfoot, who was the chairman of the JFAC. We missed him this morning. So it's hitting close to home.
Yeah, we're being careful. They're offering COVID testing here, but using our masks, and we're making sure to face forward here for the most part. And so we are, again, all in socially distanced committees and taking every precaution to stay safe and to keep others in the building safe. So I don't know, Gary, do you want to talk about some of the things you've been working on?
Yeah,
since
maybe before we do, if you have some questions.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Give us your questions. We'd love to try and answer them live on this, but we've got our own opinions to share what we want to share with, but we will take your questions as first priority.
Yeah, we would love to answer your questions. So if you have some questions and you can get it back to us, each of us have Facebook up. So if you're seeing us on each of our accounts, Facebook pages, then you can ask a question on those Facebook pages. We'll look for those questions. So I'll just start out a little bit. It's been a good week. I mentioned some things last week about the K-12 standards for our public schools. I've been heavily involved in that. We had a meeting this morning, our House Education Committee, and that we meet daily, actually, every morning. And this morning we had a good session about those standards. We've tried really, really hard to make sure that members of the committee and people who are working on this understand what the concerns have been. For those of you who have negative feelings about Common Core, we're really working hard on that to try and resolve it, to make sure we understand what those concerns are, that we get out of our content standards, get those things out of the content standards that many of you have concerns about. So it was a fun discussion in our House Ed Committee this morning. I had prepared an 8-page document really that had all of the concerns for English language arts, math, and science in that document, so that we had something to discuss. It'll take us a couple more days to get through it, but it's been a good session. I'll mention just a couple of other things. I'm on the Agricultural Affairs Committee as well, and of interest to some of you, especially those of you in the farming community around Idaho Falls, there was a bill introduced this week to legalize the production of industrial hemp. It's been a kind of a controversial issue for a long time. Idaho is one of the few states, maybe the only state right now, that hasn't legalized the production of industrial hemp. I think it'll probably get through this year. I have to admit that my farmer friends back in District 30, most of them have encouraged me to vote for industrial hemp, and that's probably what I'll do. I'll mention one other thing that might be of interest to some of you.
What industrial hemp is, there might be some.
So some of you may not know what industrial hemp is. It's a relative of marijuana that comes from the same family, cannabis family. But by law, industrial hemp has to be less than 0.3% THC, that drug that creates the bad stuff in marijuana. So when industrial hemp is grown, it looks like marijuana. it really does look like marijuana, and so it has to be carefully regulated. So it will cost the state money to regulate, to control, to oversee the production of industrial hemp. Hemp is used in many products, everything from rope, and in some cases it's put in everything from shampoo to lipstick. So anyway, that's been introduced. There's another product some of you might not be familiar with. And I share these things with you just so you understand some of the complications and the different kinds of things we get involved with over here. Some of you may have heard of it's really a drug. It's called Kratom. It's not illegal. It's actually legal in Idaho. The problem is that it's sold in everything from gas stations to small grocery stores and vape shops and other places like that. And sometimes the Kratom is adulterated with other drugs. So we had a bill come through that would make any adulteration of Kratom illegal. Anyway, that's a start on some things tonight, so I'll let these other folks talk to you for a minute.
Well, we had some excitement on the House floor yesterday and today. There has been some concern by some of the House members that we haven't had a bill come forward yet that cleans up the emergency powers. And it's a bill that dates back to the Cold War and frankly hasn't really been road tested since then. And so some cleanup items were made in it. And when we didn't have that bill heard yesterday, there was a bit of a protest. Someone tried to make a statement on the floor relative to that, and we're not allowed to speak. That was corrected today under House Rule 42, I think. Any member is allowed 3 minutes to address the House, and that happened today. And the result of that was that House Bill 135, which does really go in and clean up that emergency powers language, modernize it, update it for things we might not have expected 45 years ago. And that was brought off the second reading calendar up onto the third reading calendar, which meant it was voted on immediately. What happened yesterday is that the protest was that folks started objecting to they started forcing the bills to be read on the floor. And so we were actually on the House floor yesterday from 11 a.m. until 1:35, I think, 2 hours over the lunch hour. Unfortunately, if you were a local school board member that we were supposed to have met with by Zoom, we apologize for that. We were sitting on the House floor, listening to bills being read and voting. So, that bill did come off the House floor today, declaring that all jobs are essential, emergency orders limited to 60 days, and that if laws are going to be suspended during an emergency, that the legislature does need to be called into session. Again, I think I mentioned this last week. Civics 101, the legislature writes the laws, the executive branch implements them, and the judiciary interprets them. That's what this bill does in our opinion. Both Representative Marshall and I supported that bill, and it's that rebalancing of powers that we heard from literally thousands of you during the pandemic that you were concerned about, as were we. So that was kind of the excitement on the House floor today.
Well, we have one comment I think we should make sure we state from Brendan Summers. He says, Gary Marshall from President.
Hey, Brendan. Go away.
What a great idea. All right, and we have Mayor Sean Coletti on there. I wanted to know if we were doing this every Tuesday. We had so much fun last Tuesday that we decided that, yes, we're going to do this every Tuesday. And so spread the word out. Every Tuesday at 5:30 is when we're planning on doing that. So something that went on the floor, the Senate floor today, it probably wasn't quite as lively as the House floor, but it got a little excitement there. Was we have the advanced opportunities where if you're a high school student you can, or even seventh through 12th, I think we might have talked about this last time, but 7th through 12th grade, you can do dual enrollment and get credits for, college credits for while you're in school, which is incredible. And so we've been doing that for several years now, and it's cost the state quite a bit of money to do that. But there is a savings on the back end too, that sometimes we don't realize that, but there is a huge savings, and a great savings to parents as well. So to take these dual credits, there is no cost to the parent, no cost to the student. So it's for $75 a credit. The money goes directly to the university that's giving them credit. So one thing that we hadn't done yet is we hadn't, if your child was going to a private school or that's the word, one of those schools, the state wouldn't pay for it. You were on your own, you didn't qualify for that. However, the Supreme Court this summer, there was a lawsuit from a Espinoza case from Montana, that the Supreme Court said, no, you need, if you're doing this for a regular student, you need to do it, supply the same program for students that are in private schools. And so that was passed, and so that kind of opened the door up for us here in the state of Idaho. And so today we debated that whether we should or shouldn't on the floor. And one of the reasons why people didn't want to do that is the cost. But we did do a cap on private. So if you're going to a private school, you don't quite have everything the same, but it's very close. But it passed the Senate, and now it will be given to the House, and they'll discuss it and see what happens there. But it's kind of exciting of what's happening. The number of credits, we're talking millions of credits that these kids are getting, and so they can literally get an associate's degree by the time they graduate from high school if they'd like to.
One of the things I think is so interesting about that bill is it had both bipartisan support and bipartisan opposition. And so it wasn't an ideological thing at all. It was very pragmatic vote about supporting our students, making sure that college is affordable as we can make it for all Idaho families.
It's just, we all learn different ways. And we need to give our kids greater opportunities for education. And not everybody wants to go to college. So part of this dual credits is it doesn't mean I have to go to college. I could be getting some credits for alternatives. Credits, for instance, if I want to go and do interior decorating, or if I want to go do welding, if those credits are offered, I can graduate with a certificate in welding or whatever else, free of charge to the family. And so it's been a great success, huge success. And so this is just another step for us.
We probably ought to mention that there probably some of you listening in, if you have small children, you may not know that the state of Idaho gives each student when they enter what grade? Is that eighth?
Seventh graders.
So seventh grade. The credit is what,
$4,125.
4,000?
For private school students,
Yeah.
it's $750.
So every student gets a credit of $4,125. And so when they take a dual credit class, some of that money then pays the universities to award the dual credit. When they take the ACT or the SAT test, those tests are all paid for out of that amount. So my own grandchildren have used this quite extensively, but some of you may not know that that's going to be available if you have small children. Some of you may have older children and have forgotten that your student has that kind of credit. So the state's really put a lot of money into this dual credit and other opportunities, and it's a good thing.
You get the AP as well. You want to do
AP,
If you want to do
credits.
All of that.
advanced placement
Yeah.
classes rather than dual credit, most students, the word's coming back, are doing the dual credit because it's a sure thing. If you do the dual credit class and you pass, you will get the credit. If you take an advanced placement class, then you have to take a test. And only if you get a 3, 4, or 5 on the test, you get the credits. So anyway, do we have any questions that have come through yet?
Just a reminder, if you are watching and you do have some questions, fire up some questions for us. Looks like we got one from Jeff Townsend. Says, how about school vouchers and chance of it happening?
I can talk about that one.
Okay.
There will not be a voucher bill per se this session, at least from any of us. Vouchers are when money goes directly to a private school to pay for tuition. I have been working on a bill this session that builds on the very successful program of Governor Brad Little called the Strong Family, Strong Students Program. And that allowed up to $1,500 per student, $3,500 per family, whether a public, private, or charter school or homeschool student, access if your adjusted gross income was below $50,000. They blew through $50 million. The needs, we know how desperate the needs were of families in the past years. They're scrambling to work from home, have their students not be in school, and they need internet and multiple devices. There were a lot of problems. There was a tremendous need, and there's still a tremendous need. So the bill that I've been working on basically puts that program, makes it a permanent program, only it reduces the amount to $500 per student, and then allows a small amount, a small portion of the available funding would go to students who choose to leave the system. They had to have previously been in a public school system, but a very small portion of the bill then would support students for whom, for one reason or another, the public system just, it doesn't work. Health reasons of, immunocompromised people in the family or other needs. But so I have been working on that bill. We're calling it the Strong Students Grant Program, which is the $500 amount, and the Strong Students Scholarship Program. These are not even education savings accounts because we're not, in the language of the bill, allowing the funds to roll over from year to year. It's available to be used in that year, and if the student or family doesn't use it in that year, those funds will revert to the state. So it's very much a grant program and a scholarship program, and we're looking forward to introducing that bill, again, based on a very popular program that we know helped many of you during the pandemic.
I thought, it's on your side, I thought there was an educational savings account. One being written up, you haven't heard of it.
Well,
We haven't seen it in the House Education Committee.
some people are framing the bill I'm working on as an ESA bill, but a true ESA bill allows funds to accumulate over time, and this doesn't. So that's why we're calling it a scholarship and a grant program and not an ESA.
Another question.
So we have a question from Andrew Russell, which is a good friend of mine. He's up at BYUI, I believe. And his question is news of a tax decrease bill broke recently. What are your thoughts on the bill, and do you think it will pass and sign? So I believe that was in the House with Representative Harris.
Yeah, that was this morning. Are you familiar with it at all?
I'm not familiar with the details of it, so I'm not commenting on it.
All I've seen, frankly, is the statement of purpose, and it has a lot of moving parts. So it reduces the sales tax from 6% to 5.3%. It reduces the highest income tax rate, I can't remember, but it also eliminates the grocery tax credit, which you get, when you file your taxes, you can file for that grocery tax credit. But it doesn't eliminate the grocery sales tax. So I'm very confused about why we would eliminate the credit, but not eliminate the tax. It has a lot of moving parts, and unfortunately, I was in another committee at the time that hearing was taking place, so I really couldn't listen to it. All I've seen is the statement of purpose. But as you know, we talked about last week, if you were with us, a hearing for a full grocery tax repeal has been denied. That has been some of the frustration that also bubbled over, I think, this week in the House. It sounds like this bill does not repeal the sales tax on groceries, and so I look forward to learning more about their justification for why they structured it the way they did.
I'm not sure how far it will go because it doesn't eliminate the grocery tax, and the governor's promised that. And there's a lot of talk about it, so I'm not sure how far Representative Harris's tax cut will go. I don't know.
No, and we apologize that sometimes we don't know a lot of the details, but as we indicated to you last week, you know, each of us sits in the House, each of us sits on 3 committees or 2 if we're on JFAC. And you get so involved in the business of your committees that sometimes you don't get the details of bills that have been presented in other committees. So it's a little hard for us to keep track of all of the things going on because there truly are a multiplicity of things going on in the legislature all the time.
It looks like that might be House, I just pulled that up on my phone here. It looks like it may have been run across the desk today as House Bill 199.
Yeah, it passed the committee. It's not.
Yeah, so it is online. If you go to legislature.idaho.gov, now we all know it's there. You can see, you'll be able to read the bill for yourself. That's House Bill 199 at legislature.idaho.gov.
Something maybe a new subject, we don't have any other questions yet, is I don't know about you two, but I keep getting a lot of emails that say, do not require vaccination. You got that? And to my knowledge, there is no bill or legislation that I know of to mandate vaccination.
I don't think people need to worry about that. The legislature will not pass.
Not in Idaho.
They're not going to pass a bill that will mandate vaccinations.
Yeah.
That's going to be voluntary. And,
Yeah.
so those of you who want a vaccination, get out there, get your name on the list and get it done as soon as your group has a chance to do it. And don't worry about the state forcing you to do it because it's not going to happen.
There has been a bill introduced, House Bill 63 from Representative Tammy Nichols, that would forbid forced vaccinations. So you can look up that bill while you're there, House Bill 63. There was another bill introduced by Representative Priscilla Giddings that forbids the state from making vaccination a condition of employment with the state or any contractors with the state. That came up in my Commerce Committee, I think, last week. I don't have a bill number on that, but I'll look it up when we're done here and post it on my Facebook page.
Okay.
Any other questions coming through?
Oh, let's see. I put my glasses on. And the glasses I can see. Okay, this is from Andrew Russell. Is the state doing anything to nullify the executive orders coming from the White House?
That was actually part of the emergency bill today. So go take a look at House Bill 135. This was one of the criticisms of the bill that came up, that if there was a national emergency declared, the governor would automatically have to declare an emergency in the state of Idaho. However, that was a negotiated part of the bill, and there are some justifications for it. Obviously, Representative Marshall and I chose to support it after listening to debate. But that is a deep concern I think we all share right now as Republicans under a Democratic presidency. There may be some concerns about this national emergency order being extended, longer than maybe some of us would choose. And so we recognize those concerns. And, but we felt the group who had been, and I was not on the inside circle of who helped draft that bill, but we know a lot of really good legislators were, and that's kind of where they landed. And so, but take a look at that. We share your concern. Thank you for bringing it up.
No more questions. I've got a bill that's going to go to the State Affairs Committee this week, more than likely, and basically it is to give the right to the school board to decide if a child should be expelled from bringing a weapon to school. Right now, there's kind of zero tolerance, and if your child brings a butter knife because he's going to help make a sandwich for lunch, you get expelled if they see him with a knife. So that's something I'm working on this week that hopefully we'll be our first one, we'll see what happens.
Maybe of interest to some of you, Representative Simpson, who serves in the United States House of Representatives, proposed this past week. He has a big plan, a proposal to take out the 4 dams on the lower Snake River. And we had a little report from the Port of Lewiston in our Ag Committee today. And of course, the Port of Lewiston is Idaho's seaport. It's kind of a strange idea that we have a seaport, but we do. And barges, of course, go all the way down the Snake River from Lewiston on the Idaho side and Clarkston on the Washington side. So from that Lewiston-Clarkston port, grain and lumber and other things are shipped all the way down the Snake Columbia River to the ocean. So obviously the Port of Lewiston was deeply concerned. It was the director of the port that gave us a report today, and he was deeply concerned about what would happen to the cities of Lewiston and Clarkston if in fact the dams were ever breached on the lower Snake. It's a controversial issue, and obviously Idaho, our legislature won't have much to say about that. It's kind of a national thing. But obviously it's on everyone's mind this week.
That's not to say it's not being talked about a lot in the Idaho State Capitol, that's for sure.
If there is anything Idaho can do to stop it, probably it will happen. I know some of you, of course, may be on the other side of the issue, and you want to protect, you want to provide for the resurgence of salmon and other fisheries. So it's a tough issue. It's been around for a long time, and it will remain around for a long time.
I printed 2 bills this week in the House Education Committee, 3 bills. One in resources. One is to allow extended learning opportunities for parents. I think we saw a situation during this pandemic where parents were scrambling to find opportunities for their children that maybe weren't being met because there weren't face-to-face opportunities in the school. And that's already available in Idaho rules, where if you are participating in a sports team, for example, you can petition your school board to get PE credit for that. All this bill does is put that into state law and create a process where all school boards will have a policy for this. Does not take away local control. Local school boards still get the call on that, and will make those decisions, negotiating and with the parents, whether they feel like it's a valid learning opportunity or not. But that bill was printed in House Ed. Another bill related to the Office of School Safety and Security. I am the chair of that advisory board, and it's being moved over into the State Board of Education out of the Division of Building Safety. The final bill I printed this week was a resolution actually to petition the federal government, to do a study to determine more accurate land values now that we have AI and some advanced technology that we haven't had in the past, to petition the federal government for more realistic payments under the payment in lieu of taxes or the PILT program. It's pretty tough in Idaho when the federal government owns 63.2% of your land it forces property taxes up on the remaining percentage, and that's tough. We know that we're dealing with a property tax problem in the state. And so this is just one more way to try and shine some light on helping us get proper reimbursements for our federally owned land, but not to sell it, not anything like that, just to petition the federal government for higher levels of reimbursement so that we can meet the needs of roads, bridges, public safety, schools in our state with the small percentage of land that we do control.
Well, I think our 30 minutes is up. So let me just real quick, one thing in JFAC, this week will end the review of the agencies coming in and reviewing their budgets with us, and starting Monday, we will start proposing budgets for them and consider those budgets. So we kind of an exciting part of next week. Again, guys, we do this every Tuesday, 5:30. We'd love to have you join us, spread the word, and come with your questions, and we'll try and answer them. Until then, thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Have a great week.